and 455. Tell us about this, Sharon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill would create the offenses of strangulation and aggravated strangulation. The bill would define strangulation as the restriction of a person's airflow or blood circulation by external pressure to the throat or neck, the blocking of a person's nose or mouth, or applying weight to the torso, abdomen, or shoulders so as to restrict a person's breathing. These acts would be considered strangulation regardless of whether the conduct resulted in a visible injury or whether there was an intent to kill or injure another person. The bill would provide that a person commits the offense of aggravated strangulation if at the time of the offense, the perpetrator was subject to a valid order of protection or restraining order, wielded a deadly weapon or ligature, or had previously been convicted of a strangulation offense. Mr. Chairman, this bill has been before the legislature several times over the last several years. It was in subcommittee this morning, and there are no amendments.
All right, and voted favorably how many times?
Several
times?
Yes, sir.
All right. Senator Adams, any need to speak further?
No, sir.
All right, you got a motion?
Motion favorable report.
I second.
Second, discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
All right, Senator Massey, then Senator Cash.
I'm curious, and I know with Senator Adams being the sponsor, I mean, I know he's thought about this, but I am curious, how this would affect police work and restraint, different types of holds that are necessary to restrain
Yeah, so
people.
in 2023, we actually did law enforcement reform where it removed strangulation holds or any sort of choke holds unless it was a deadly situation. So this will not affect law enforcement at all. And this is basically, we're the last state that does not have this law, and this will help out those domestic abuse and victims.
This is broader than just chokeholds, though, isn't it? I mean, any type of thing that's going to impede normal breathing or airflow. I mean,
Anything cut off the airflow, that's correct.
they can't. And I don't like it when they do this anyway. But that's also going to be an issue for like restraining someone on the ground, right? If they are lying on the ground and they put your knee on your back, that's going to be an impediment to breathing in some situations.
Mr. Chairman, if I...
Hold on a second. Sharon's got the term in the bill itself.
Mr. Chairman, under subsection G, it is an affirmative defense to a charge pursuant to this section that the act was performed as part of a necessary medical procedure medical procedure to aid or benefit the victim, or was an otherwise lawful action taken by a person or law enforcement personnel.
So if it's otherwise lawful, it could not be unlawful pursuant to this provision. Is that right?
Yes, sir. If it's
Yep.
otherwise lawful. And as Senator Adams said, back in 2023, provisions were adopted by this legislature regarding that.
Yeah, I just think this is broader than that. I think this is broader than chokeholds, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just want to make sure that everybody understands, because I don't want them using chokeholds, and I absolutely supported the elimination of that. And I don't like some of the pictures or videos that I see when they're just holding somebody down who can't breathe either. I just want to, okay, well, as long as the law enforcement guys are okay with it, then I certainly absolutely like the overall context of protecting domestic violence victims and anyone else from strangulation. I just want to make sure that we're not impeding something that it would normally be done in an acceptable manner.
And I can tell you from experience, other than a couple cases that we've seen, and actually law enforcement officers have been arrested for it, but what I have seen on the road is once the subject is detained and handcuffed and secured, they're either sat up or put into a vehicle. Even during questioning time, that'll even be done. So I don't think, as long as the law enforcement is doing what they're trained and acting responsibly, that this should not affect them.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cash.
My question has to do with the minimum penalties here. I see under the aggravated offense that the imprisonment is not less than 10 or more than 20, and I'm just wanting to know how that compares to other statutes in this part of the code, in terms of the minimum sentencing there of 10 years.
Yes, sir, Senator Cash, under the assault and battery of a high and aggravated nature statute, that is up to 20 years. Assault and battery,
That's a minimum of 20 years?
it's
'Cause
up to
I'm
20
asking-
years.
Well, I'm asking about the minimum, because this says not less than 10 years, not more than 20. So I'm asking about what other minimums that do we have in that range?
There are no minimums under the assault and battery crimes.
So there's no minimums under assault and battery, but this is going to create a minimum of 10 years. So how does this compare to other serious crimes like hitting somebody with a baseball bat?
Well, so when you strangle somebody or create any kind of impediment to air to your brain, it does start to cause brain injuries. So it's something that they cannot correct from that point on, no matter from 20 seconds of restricting the airflow to the brain to 2.5 minutes.
I'm not arguing with you about the seriousness. I'm asking how this minimum compares to other crimes that are of a similar serious nature. Because if somebody cracks your skull with a baseball bat, that could also lead to serious problems, blood on the brain pressure and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just asking this question, trying to figure out where we're at in the code.
Senator Cash, you need that before you decide on this bill itself today? I mean, we can get staff, I mean,
I don't need that before the bill moves forward, but I do think it's something that ought to be considered if maybe the other things aren't enough. But if she is saying that the other thing had no minimum and this jumps to 10 minimum, then that would seem to be somewhat inconsistent, is what I'm trying to say.
so with that, again, there's some kind of back and forth here. Let's get an answer, a definitive answer on that for you. Any other questions for the subcommittee, Senator Chaplin?
How would this just not fall under assault to begin with? Why do we need something special for strangulation if it's already assault?
Because this is actually creating a little bit other than just an assault. This is a more violent situation. And then also what happens too is you can actually get damage from injuries from a strangulation that is not seen. And until the medical examiners or the doctors are doing x-rays and they see this damage and that goes from an assault, then at that point it gives us the right to have a strangulation charge. That's what would help law enforcement.
I just feel like this might be a little excessive and overly broad.
All right, further questions? All right, Senator Sutton.
To Senator from Berkeley, Senator Adams' point, this one hits a little close to home. I had a first cousin a couple years ago, and this situation, incredibly violent, domestic violence situation. And what the senator from Berkeley said is 100% right. She started, and it wasn't immediately apparent, but it was way after the event, having other long-term health issues related to the strangulation. And ultimately, she died. She died a year later. The official cause is COVID, but as you know, COVID affects your breathing. And I'm no medical expert, but that strangulation incident that the year prior contributed heavily to her death. So this is a pretty awful crime, pretty awful thing for a family to experience. My cousin, she also left behind 2 daughters when she passed away. The one thing I'll say is I will echo the senator from Anderson's thoughts. I'm, in general, skeptical of mandatory minimums. I do believe that we need specific punishment for strangulation, but the mandatory minimum piece may need a little bit of work there. But Senator Adams, I appreciate your work on this bill.
All right, further questions, comments, otherwise, motion?
I move to carry over, Mr. Chairman. You want to carry? You want to?
I'd like, and then we can.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Motion move forward, and we can work on what Senator Cash is talking from Anderson.
Okay, I'm fine with that too. I mean,
All
if you
right,
want to go
so
on. so-
motion from
you
subcommittee
wanted to
chair,
go
that
over.
came out unanimously, is that correct? Senator
Correct.
Adams? All right, motion from the subcommittee.
I'll second that.
All right, motion for a favorable, Senator Adams, yes?
Yes.
All right, second, all in, any discussion, further discussion on that? Otherwise, proceed to a vote. Again, to get it out on the calendar, we've got 5 days after today. Motion made and second, all in favor say aye. Any opposition? There being none. All right, we're going to go, Mr. Freeman, Patrick, Palmer Patrick, come on up, sir.